Hello and welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming and our Kayn guide for Path of Champions. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Starting off with an overview of the champion and their playstyle, just so that you can know if this is someone you want to invest your time and shards in unlocking and upgrading. First we have Darken equipment. So it's kind of the theme of the Kayn build. So like normal equipment, you're able to put it on your units and it'll give you some stat increases. The Darken equipment also normally has a additional effect where normal equipment normally doesn't. And then the special thing about Darken equipment is normally for a much higher cost, you can play the equipment as a unit itself. So normally you can play it as an equipment for 1 to 2 mana, or for like 7 to 8 mana you can play it as some big strong unit, and that gives you some unique scaling opportunities that normally wouldn't be available to you. Next we have a few big units. So normally the way Kayn plays out is he'll have 2 to 3 units that are getting very large, that are getting a lot of buffs, and normally you're focused on those units. Now you can still get a full board, but generally, especially towards the early and mid game, you're just going to be having a couple units and focusing on those. So if that's a type of playstyle that would be fun for you, then this could be a deck for you. But you do have to protect those units. If they get taken away, then that can really hurt you. Next we have Sustain. So with Kayn himself, when you level him up, you're normally going to be transforming him into a unit that every time it kills something, it is going to be able to heal itself and the Nexus for 2. So it's not a huge burst of sustain like Gwen, but it is constant sustain that you're normally going to be having every game. So usually you'll be able to heal yourself up a little bit each round. Next we have Feast or Famine. So the way Kayn and his units scale up from the star powers is that they have to actually kill an enemy unit. So unlike Tahm Kench, where his units just need to survive damage, or Garen, where they just have to strike an enemy, they actually have to kill the enemy unit. So it's much more difficult, and so if your units are just too weak to get that first kill, then you really are going to be falling behind and struggling. But there's going to be some times where you're playing against a bunch of weak units, you're going to be able to kill things every single round, and you'll get massive units. So Kayn really struggles where he's either going to have a very hard time, or he's going to be completely dominating and destroying. It's not really an in-between. Lastly, we do have Champ Reliant. So Kayn is a very strong, very good unit, but you're going to have a hard time closing out your matches if you don't draw Kayn. Now, most decks do have this issue. It's not quite as bad as someone like Yasuo, but it is very noticeable that if you just don't draw Kayn, you're probably going to have a hard time winning that game. Alright, that's it for the overview. Let's go hop in game and further explain some of the things I touched on in this overview. Alright, in game now with Kayn. We have him at level 23 and 3 stars. So he is a 5 cost unit, so on the higher end, and he starts off with 2 attack and 5 health. So he has his origin, and most of this is just applying to deck building, but there's this one spot here. Once you have summoned 3+ cultist units, draw a Kayn. So your cultist units are actually fairly expensive, so normally you'll hopefully be drawing Kayn before that. But there is that bit of draw. It's not really great, you're not going to see it in most matches, but it is there and can help you out. So Kayn, he auto-equips the Darken Scythe, and then when I kill an enemy, heal me 2. And then his level up is I've struck twice, and then when I level up, recall me. When he gets recalled, he goes to this 0 cost 3/6, and then you're able to choose who you want to have Kayn transform into. So there's Rost, who gets Overwhelm and then the Challenger, and then he gets the Corrupted Scythe. When I kill an enemy, fully heal me and heal your Nexus 2. So that's the sustain we were talking about before. So this Darken Scythe here, this is the baseline basic version of what Kayn gets before he levels up. The Corrupted Scythe attack, grant the Corrupted Scythe 1/1. He can then also turn into this Shadow Assassin, so you get Elusive then, and then you get the Shadow Scythe, and same health and power. The Shadow Scythe, grant just 2 attack instead, so more aggressive, but you're not getting that sustain. Normally you're going to be wanting to go with Rost for the Overwhelm and Heal, at least in my opinion. But yeah, at level 5, he gets recalled, and then you get to play him for 0 mana, and turn him into one of these. And then he's going to be stuck as one of these for the rest of the game. So his spell is 4 cost, slow spell, but it's give Kayn quick attack this round, and then he starts a free attack challenging an enemy, and you create a Kayn in your deck. This is very powerful, very strong. Definitely something that you're always going to be happy to see if you have multiple Kayns. One of the more impactful champion spells, in my opinion. So Kayn also starts off baseline with Challenger, so you can try to make sure you're attacking into an enemy that you can kill to try to scale up. So his star powers: when an allied unit kills another unit, give that ally, well, this says give, this actually should be grant. That's interesting that they actually kind of messed it up here. So normally in Runeterra, if you see give, that means temporary for the round, and grant means it's permanent. Even though this says give, it is actually permanent, so it should be grant there. But the 1-star version is just give that ally or grant it 1/1. If you have the 3-star, it's now grant that ally 2/2 and heal it to full. So a bit better. Most champions have their 3-star power just being the basic doubling of the 1st-star power, but here it's doubled and then has this bonus effect of fully healing it, which is very nice. The 2-star is +1 starting mana, and then each game, the first time an ally kills an enemy and survives, create a random Darken equipment in hand. It costs 2 less. So you have a good way to generate equipment, which is nice. You just have to get that first kill, which you're going to be trying to do anyways, to scale up. So you're able to scale up your units very fast and keep them alive with that full heal, so it is very strong. But again, you have to actually be killing units. If the enemy just has units that are stronger than yours, then you're really going to be struggling. Alright, taking a look at his starting deck. So you have Mentis Choice. This is the same card that, like Varus, has in his deck as well. So it's give an ally 1 attack or 1 health this round. If you have equipped an ally, then you copy it. And it gets Hex Tech Fabricator. You get Sage Seeker with Fated and Tough. The Fated means that if you target them, they get 1/1. This only happens once a round, but they get granted that for the round, so it's another way to help scale up your unit, which is very nice. Startled Stomper, Overwhelm 4/3. The Darken Lodestone, so this, you don't have to worry about this getting created. This is just one that's baseline in your deck. So it gives you 1/1, quick attack, and then grant my supported ally 1/1. And then you can spend 8 mana to play it as this unit right here. So, like all Darken equipment, you can play it for relatively cheap, or for much more expensive, you can actually play it as a unit. So if it's getting later into the game, this is actually very nice that you can have some higher units in your deck baseline. Wounded White Flame, this is going to be your most reliable card. So it has Fury, Fated, and then gets Challenger. All of that together helps you scale up, helps you pick a unit that you can actually kill, and normally this will be your best friend in your runs to turn into a big unit that's just scaling out of control. It's very good and much better than most of your other units. You get Furious Wielder, an equipped ally strikes an enemy, so you should be able to actually have an equipment on your unit by the time you have the mana to play this, unlike Varus, where you're going to be getting a bunch of these, and often you're not going to have anyone that's equipped to even play them. Noxine Defector, quick attack with Nab. Grow my power to that of the strongest equipped ally this round. This can be fine, but I normally don't like this card. That could just be personal preference, but without it having Overwhelm, it's kind of a bit useless, in my opinion. So it's fine to play, but if I'm cutting a card, this is normally the card I cut. I like this card much better in the Varus deck, because Varus is just able to get to such a crazy level that's more meaningful. But here, I personally don't like it as much. You get Ranger, Knight, Defector. Once you've equipped an ally, grant me Scout. So normally by the time you're at 4 mana, you will have equipped someone, and so this unit will really always get Scout. And then that Dragon Tooth Necklace, getting Fury and a bit more attack and health. Very good card, and it further feeds into that Feast or Famine. If you're strong enough that you can do the Scout attack with this unit and kill an enemy and scale up and then attack again, it's great. But if you're playing against tougher opponents where this 4 mana cost is already going to be out-leveled by all the enemy cards, then you can't even really take effect of the Scout. So it really does feed into that Feast or Famine mentality. And then you have Kayn, who is very strong and a lot of fun to play. One problem with this deck is baseline, a lot of your cheaper cards are fairly weak. Like, it's not terrible, but if you're playing against like Galio or Aurelion Sol, then the mana cost, the enemy is going to have much stronger cards. And so you really might struggle sometimes to really be able to kill any enemy units and be able to start that scaling. So it can be a little rough in some matches. Alright, taking a look at Relics now. So the Stalker's Blade and Gatebreaker both work very well on Kayn. Just like Garen, being able to do 2 strikes, you immediately level up. The difference is then Kayn gets recalled, and you can play him again for 0 mana, getting those strikes off again. So you get more effectiveness than most other champions. The one downside is Kayn starts out very weak as far as his power goes, and so you're probably not going to be killing an enemy or doing too much damage to the Nexus, but you are getting the effect twice, so that is very good. And then if you do kill someone with the Stalker's Blade, you will get the 2/2 and fully heal, so that is nice to start your scaling right away. So I could see an argument for just doing multiple Stalker's Blade. I only have one though, so I haven't been able to test that out. But this is a good combo once you have those 2 slots. Taking a look at some more common relics now. Quick Attack, always good on Kayn. All of his versions have Challenger, so the Challenger Quick Attack combo, very good for removing enemies. Chameleon's Necklace, once I have another common slot, this is what I'm going to be putting in. So having more Kayns in your deck, since it is somewhat champ reliant, having more and drawing them when you need them, very helpful. And then his champion spell, if you've had duplicate Kayns, is very strong, so that's always good to have as well. Taking a look at some more rare relics. The Troll King's Crown, this can be very good. Your units do very well with Overwhelm since they have very large attack. So without Overwhelm, normally your games are going to be going on much longer because the enemy will just be able to block you with really cheap units. So getting that Overwhelm to actually go through and hit the Nexus, very strong. So the Deceiver's Crest and the General Counterplan. This one, when I level up, create a copy of my champion spell in hand. It costs 0 this round. And then the Grand General's Counterplan, round start, create a fleeting copy of me in hand. These are going to have a very similar effect, except that the Grand General's Counterplan is going to be every single round, making one of those spells, whereas Deceiver's Crest is just going to be when you level up. Once I have this rare slot, I'm probably going to go with Counterplan myself. Kayn's spell, we touched on it earlier. It was that give Kayn Quick Attack, and he starts a attack challenging an enemy. Very strong, especially if you're going with Rost with that Overwhelm. So you're getting more sustain from killing whoever you're attacking, but then this can help end games by taking off whoever you're attacking, as well as doing damage to the Nexus, because that free attack, all the Overwhelm damage will go through and hit that Nexus. So very strong, definitely something to try out. That was just some of the relics I wanted to touch on. Let's go look at what powers you want to get in game and what support champions work well with Kayn. Alright, taking a look at powers now. So we have Dragon's Rage here on the left. When you summon an ally granted Fury, it is a dragon. So this is going to work very well with Kayn. You're trying to always have your units kill enemy units, and so you already have Fury essentially going off from your star powers. So this is just further doubling down on your units scaling by killing enemies. So it's just going to help you ramp up even faster. Battlefield Training, grant your weakest ally 1/1. Very good, giving you more stats. And then this can help with your Feast and Famine, just like Fixer Upper here on the right. Round start, give your weakest ally 3/3 this round. Both of these are going to help get your units strong enough that they can kill the enemy units. Sometimes your units are just going to be a bit weaker, and so being able to play them but then have them get buffed up by some of these powers can help you actually kill the enemy unit and start your scaling. So very important and very good to have for Kayn. Taking a look at the next set of powers here. So we have Overprepared, game start, create a random equipment in hand, it costs 2 less. So most equipment will then be either free or very, very cheap. Kayn scales well with different equipment, so having that at the start of the game can be very nice, and this just helps your units be a bit stronger so they can get those kills and start scaling. Crush, allies have Overwhelm, like we talked about with the Relics. Overwhelm is very good for Kayn. You have very large units, but often they'll just be blocked out by very weak ones, and all that damage isn't going to actually contribute to destroying the Nexus. So having Overwhelm will help you close out games much faster. Domination, round start, rally. So Kayn is very focused on his units and doesn't really have too many spells to be able to use when he's not having the attack. So it's better to be attacking every single round, clearing the enemy board, destroying their Nexus. So rally will really help you and help focus on what Kayn is best at. Alright, let's go take a look at what support champions you might want to get with Kayn. Alright, taking a look at support champions now. As always, we don't just want to give you a list of champions for you to play with Kayn, but we want to give you some thoughts on who you would want to choose and why. So firstly, we have strong units. Now, you're needing to have units that can kill the enemy, and so having some big beefy units, if they got some really good items on them, and they're relatively cheap, and ones you think you would be able to kill the enemy with without needing much help, that'd be something to go for. Also, we have Fury. So Kayn scales very well with Fury. It's essentially the same thing as his star powers, just a little bit weaker, and so that can definitely help you out, get your units scaling even faster. Next we have Strike. So any spells like single combat where your unit strikes an enemy, going to be very beneficial because if you can kill enemies with that, further just helping focus on your scaling. And last we have Challenger. Any Challenger units or any way to give Challenger to your own units so that they can always know that when they attack, they're going to be grabbing someone that they can kill and start that scaling. So for actual champions then, we have Shyvana. Shyvana with that Fury can really help scale up. Works very well with Kayn. Next we have Draven. Draven has some pretty good units, and then he also has a spell that's striking a enemy. Again, very helpful, and his spell actually makes it so your unit strikes the enemy without them striking you back. Very strong for Kayn. And lastly we have Fiora, both for the Challenger effect, but then Fiora herself, scaling up with Kayn would definitely be able to end the game very quickly, and you don't need to worry about like overwhelm or anything like that, since Fiora can just level up and win you the game herself. Alright, that's it for support champions. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching that video all the way to the end. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We're putting out multiple videos every single day for Path of Champions content. So if that interests you, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and welcome to the channel. Have a great day.